the Commandant of the Atlantic Seas, Captain of the East Coast, your premier puffer right now, Hungry Body. Oh, he whistled it!
Wow!
Whistled it into
of
an
it.
up smash kick. Unbelievable. That is something you don't see every day.
Damn, in the back of the head. That is rude.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is the upset. This is what we wanted to see today.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Directional Influence episode 26, brought to you by VVV Gaming. I am your host, Rapture, and with me here today is a clusterfuck of people, really. I've got here Will, Kadaj, DMG, DFAT, Verm, PD, and Malcolm. And I'm not kidding you when I say that. That is the actual group of people in this episode, and the reason for that is because we're that awesome. So today, we're going to be talking about camping effectively, which is something that you guys should all learn how to do. And if you haven't learned already, like, you know, it's 2011, what are you doing? And we'll also be talking about what defines a top player. And I'm sure Verm has a lot to talk about that because he's very smart and he makes big words happen. And we're just going to talk about stuff because we have 8 people in here, and, like, I'm sure things will come about. So this is episode 26. Keep listening, and if you don't, I mean, I don't know why you'd click this to, like, not listen. That's sort of stupid. But anyway, keep listening.
Yeah, all right, so camping effectively. Camping itself, it's a very broad term, and a lot of people seem to have it as like a very specific, they have a specific idea of what camping is. But what you need to realize is that camping is just, it's a general, kind of a general thought process you gotta get yourself into. It's just getting yourself to be patient. It's understanding, okay, I'm in a position where I can sit back, I can relax, I can slow down the pace, I can calm down, and I can wait to see what my opponent is doing. Because, especially for Brawl, this is a kind of game where it feels like, and you know, a lot of you know this, but it feels like it's a lot easier to get your opponent to do something really dumb or do something at the wrong time and then just go in and punish them and then just kind of back out. Like, unless you're Meta Knight or somebody that's really good offensively, like, you kind of just wait for somebody to mess up and then you hit them. And so it's like, like when you do that, you don't just do it and then, okay, I'm done camping, I'm going to switch it up and then go offensively. You go the full mile when you decide to camp. Like, you decide to, like, hold yourself back completely because defensive options in this game are so strong, right? So you just kind of stay there. And you're like, okay, you have to do something really dumb to try to beat what I'm doing. And so it makes it easier for me to just kind of sit there and then punish whatever your stupid shit is. Now, you can take that really far and take it to where you're not just playing defensive, but you're just outright running away. And for those of you who don't know who I am, that's what I choose to do a lot of times. Depending on the stage of the character or just whoever I'm playing, I'm like, all right, you know what? I don't even want to fight you. I'm just going to run from you. I'm going to get, like, you know, just kind of a lead, hit you a few times, and then we're going to play tag, all right? We're going to play tag on stage, off stage, under the stage. Like, I'm going to grab you and throw you away. Like, it's kind of fun doing it. But what people don't realize is that for a lot of characters, it actually can be a really strong strategy because mobility in this game is such a strong tool that you can actually abuse it, where you just run away from them and they can't catch you. So.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the points you actually made, which was very clear, is that you gotta, like, commit to it. You can't just be like,
yes.
yeah, you can't be like wishy-washy.
It's not a temporary thing. It is you are dedicated to doing it because 95% of the time it is the best stuff to do.
Exactly. And, you know, if it's a lifestyle, really. You should be, you know, in your tents cooking marshmallows all the time. And I feel like a lot of people actually like they don't commit to it enough because they're camping, and then they see an opportunity and then they try and take it, and now all of a sudden they're playing a little more offensively and they're instead of reacting or they're making the second move.
And then so they play offensively, and then their opponent flips it on them and starts camping them, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, all right, I gotta do something about this. And it's just, if you don't flip over to offense, if you just stay on camping, it's easier to control the pace of the match. It's easier to control your opponent than it is when you're going offensively.
I'd also like to mention that being a Ganondorf, I kind of make camping my lifestyle too, so I can understand where DMG's coming from entirely.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, Verm, you must be an outdoorsman really, because you don't really have many options on the offensive side. And I believe that like Will too. I mean, your character is obviously very offensively inclined once you're inside, but approaching isn't necessarily always the most easiest thing for you, is it?
No, I mean like with DK, oh man, it's pretty much my playstyle is super aggressive. So when it comes to the point where I have to camp, it's like it's painful to me. But I mean that is Brawl. That's what you have to do. But luckily with my character, when I catch someone at like low percents, I could just kind of, dance around, wait for that back air. And luckily my back air is so good that it like combos into itself, and like I could just kind of go off after that. But it's all about waiting for that opening, playing super safe. And like DMG said, like if you're zoning right outside their spacing, and they're going to have to try, especially if you have a lead already, and they try something like ridiculous or something, out of like unorthodox to try to get in to approach, and they totally miss space, or you power shield it, like that gives you your opening. So pretty much you're always at that advantage as long as you have the percent lead. And maybe even not, if you get inside your opponent's head and you're just camping them and you just force their mental approach on you, like it pretty much is what Brawl comes down to, I think.
Yeah, like I'm the same way in a lot of regards, because like I was half joking when I said or like Dakota said pretty big outdoorsman, but it's actually what the Ganon boards lovingly refer to as stand camping, just standing there and just psyching your opponent out and just waiting for them to magnetize, or to just let Ganon they just kind of gravitate to Ganon, and especially his forward smash. I've seen it happen. I've seen it many times. But so yeah, it's when it comes to camping, I'm like Will in a lot of ways, in which I have an extremely aggressive play style. Like I'm so ADHD when it comes to this game. Like if somebody's camping, fuck them. I'm gonna go in and try to, I'm gonna go in bare chested and try to beat the shit out of them. I really don't care. It's fun. But when it comes down to the wire, and I really do want to win, it sucks because a lot of the time, if I'm going up against like a Meta Knight or something, it's like I have to wait for them to do something so profoundly retarded that it's just let me think of a good example. When I was actually when I was playing Slick Vic at Pound 5 in our money match, him being Wario, he started to kind of get the hang of my full hop nairs, and it was getting really annoying because it's like that's Ganon's whole game against Wario is doing full hop nairs, because he's so short and stumpy, he can't do shit against it unless he figures it out, like entirely. So I had to sit there and let the game go almost to 1 minute because I was too afraid to go in because he had a fully charged waft, and I, didn't want to get a nuclear blast to my face and end up losing the damn match. So it's, I can't stand the campy aspect of Brawl, and I, obviously, I think as, coming from a Ganon main, saying that it can be overcome, it definitely can be, but there comes a time when you just, you have no options other than just to do that, because people get momentum and you're done. You gotta run away.
Yeah, and speaking of Wario, Malcolm, you're here and you have a pretty beast Wario. I mean, what is your perspective on this?
Well, I mean, Wario can be offensive, but he has no range. So, I mean, to get in, there's a lot of camping involved. But it's kind of like DK. When you do get in there, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Not everyone chooses that. DMG chooses to run away for a little bit. Maybe all 8 minutes. but he can be played offensively. But there's always the aspect of Brawl where to get inside is difficult.
It's funny that we have Malcolm here today because he did just win a tournament this past weekend, and he did play extremely patiently, and he has some matches up against Meep, and pretty much it's one of the most impressive things for a Wario to play patiently enough with that zero range that he has versus an Ice Climbers. So if you guys want to see some patience, I mean. That waft, man, that waft at the end of game 2, that was so hype. But
Yeah.
that was some clutch stuff. I don't know. You guys gotta watch that.
See,
But
with camping with Wario though, is that I mean, Wario is scary in that even if you try and like punish that camping, you're gonna get farted on the face. Like it's really 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 terrible. And we also have our main man, Marth main, Matt here. Matt, what are your perspectives on this?
Well, there are certain aspects about camping that people kind of ignore, which is that you don't actually have to be like DMG style running away to really be camping. There was actually, at least back then, Neo kind of perfected a style with Marth that was pretty much, we called it camping in your face. And like, it was basically just keeping you out of range perfectly with all of Marth's range and options, with just his presence. Like, he's there and he's got the range to keep you out, but he's not, necessarily running away from you. He's just kind of there. Another really, I think, important aspect about camping that people don't really abuse, or they don't realize they're abusing, is platform camping, which is really effective, especially against characters like Ice Climbers, where you don't want to stay on the ground against them. And it's the main reason why a lot of characters do good on Battlefield and such in certain matchups, is you might not even realize that you're camping them, but by jumping around on those platforms and not getting hit, you're technically camping your opponent.
Well, I think I'll go ahead and say
Okay,
something.
Kadaj's gonna say something.
Yeah, I
DFAT
think
taking a little nap right now,
Defense
so I'll get back
sleeping.
to you a little bit.
Slacking.
But yeah, I think as a Marth main, one of the main effective strategies that he does go by is simply camping and zoning. A lot of the times you'll see either say myself or Mike Hayes, you'll just walk around slightly in front of him, but it's only because you don't want to dash in because you can't shield on reaction. So walking around right out of their safe zones is really, really, it helps a lot because you can shield on reaction and you can also zone and put out your own walls of safety whenever you need to. So it's kind of like it's kind of what PD said. It's aggressive. It's aggressive camping or aggressive zoning, but characters like MK, Diddy, Falco, Mars, Pikachu, in a sense, those characters are the ones that benefit highly, like in really really high regards in that sense with zoning like that. I know it works for other like mid-tier characters like DK and lower tier characters such as Ganon that could also benefit from using it. It's just something that's a part of the game, and it's really heavy in the meta game, especially when you get in a high level competition. Like if you're playing someone like say Anti or Mewtwo King, if you go in with an aggressive mindset and you just go aggro, they're gonna pick you apart immediately because they're using the same strategy that I'm talking about to pick you apart. So it's big waiting games, more so of a chess game than anything. But yeah, gotta go with camping. Shout outs to DMG.
And I totally
No.
agree, actually. Everything you were saying about, zoning with Marth and like you were saying, like walking around right outside their spacing. The first time I think I've ever seen a player do that, I don't know exactly when it struck me, but it was probably one of the first times I was watching Mike Hayes, and I thought he was just like, I thought he was just messing with people. He was just like dupe walking. He's just like literally walking back and forth right outside their spacing, and I was like, I realized, I was like, wow, he has so many more options, not, just dash dancing around, or like out of a walk you can do literally anything, and if you stay outside their spacing, like you're totally safe. So I started actually putting that into my game. And when I realized that I'm not walking enough, like PD will usually like come by like, dude, you gotta walk. You just like learn to walk. And then I just like when I walk, it just there's so many more options. So I think I initially saw that. It might have been like the first time I saw Mike Hayes play. It was either on YouTube or maybe like one of the first MLGs, but I definitely approve of walking.
It's a big mind game as well because you feel like they're trolling you. They're not doing anything, just walking around. So it's like, damn, what the hell am I supposed to do this? How do I approach this strategy?
Yeah, it's funny that like a very, very strong thing to do in a fighting game is to literally nonchalantly walk across the stage or just around in circles, because you have somehow better options.
And a great partner to the walk is the empty short hop, I must say. The empty short hop is a boss. Because people will jump a lot of times with the intention of doing an aerial, but something I learned with Marth's metagame in particular is that you jump not with the intention of fairing, but with the intention of not getting hit and hoping to hit them with something.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually a really, really good point because, and I feel like a lot of people are actually very prone to just throwing moves out, which was, I don't know if it's still a huge thing today, but back then, back years ago, maybe it was very just like, yo, just throw moves out because, it's whatever, especially if you use Meta Knight or something. But now, if you can get punished so easily by people who know what they're doing, I'm not going to stand on the other side of the stage and throw moves out because Verm's going to like chokehold me if I do something wrong. I'd rather sit in a neutral position where I can know my options rather than just be like throwing out forward airs and be like, oh well, I hope I don't get hit when I come back down to the ground.
Yeah, that was actually the popular strategy back in the day. Was that it was like, oh, just whiff fairs in front of people's shields, like they're not gonna do anything about it. A year later we're at this.
Yeah.
09 metagame with Marth was nothing but whiff moves. You'll be safe. Then they later found out, oh wait, if I buffer punishes, then I'm fucked. So let me start walking around now.
That walk. But we also have DFAT here, and DFAT, I don't know, I guess you're known for camping, so
Master ledge camper.
So what do you got to tell us?
I know I'm the creator of the Anubis strategy, but I think you guys have zoning and camping misunderstood. Because when you're zoning, you're trying to purposely force them to run into something or push them into a corner where they don't have many options. But while you're camping, you're just trying to avoid everything the entire time. And I think that's what you guys are getting those two things confused. They're not the same thing. They're very different, actually. Like in Street Fighter, the reason why they go, they stutter step, right? It's because they're trying to zone each other, try to bait another one to make a move, But in Brawl, we have a ledge to hide behind, so, it kind of is the same thing. It's very hard to say, but, because of the ledge, zoning is not that strong. And that's why ledge grab limits are in place,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, zoning is it's a huge part of any fighter, but in Brawl specifically because it's so easy to get punished and there's so many ways you can actually get out of, being zoned or just, trying not to get hit that, it's definitely, I feel like it is a part of camping, but at the same time, it's part of everything. If you're not zoning well at all, you're not going to win, most likely. You got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I just like to say, all of you are doing it wrong. You need to time out your opponents every game, every set, and then you will finally understand what camping is.
If we don't see a full 8 minutes, it's not a true game of Brawl. It's really not.
You think I'm joking, but if you saw me at Genesis,
I know
was
you're
on
not joking.
fire.
I know you're not joking.
At least one game out of every set I played at Genesis went to time. And Malcolm was in my pool, and our set Malcolm. I think people were it started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were about to get through playing, and people were getting lunch, and it was just taking forever.
Oh my god!
It was a long set. I was taking the time.
Hey, I took you to time. You took me to time. There's some camping going on there.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, people learn how to camp, and you may actually be good at this game. All right. Did anyone else hear
Oh,
Is,
Verm with
is
the
anyone
with the
else
beep.
hearing that?
Verm with the beep. Long beep.
Verm, who you calling?
All right.
All right, so regarding all that crap I was talking about top players, like what makes a top player? Like not necessarily what who is a top player. Like what results dictate as a top player. Rather, the kind of extensionality of or rather intentionality of what makes a top player top. So basically, what I want to talk about is like kind of the general fallacy of the competitive brawl philosophy, which is you're only a top player if you have these ostensible results, if you have tangible evidence to prove it, and if like being a top player is only status. It's not actually a state of it's not a state of being of superior skill. It's a status, and the skill aspect comes second to that status and image. So basically what I want to talk about is what do you like. First of all, I want to see what you guys think is what oh, that was attractive. I just want to see like just what you guys think makes a top player top. Do you think that say somebody who uses a mid tier, like say Will, he uses DK, and I think it's pretty much incontrovertible that he's a top player. He demonstrates it, very readily, but because of his character, he's held back a lot, and he doesn't place in top 3 regularly, which by extension is not placing in the money, which according to a lot of people I had previously asked is what is kind of the dogma of what dictates who's a top player and who's not, rather than looking at is this person, do they demonstrate capabilities that are top tier, or is everything that matters strictly limited to how they place and their status?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that, I agree with that. First comes the status, then comes the skill level, because even at some point, like it really does come down to the tiers, and that's why we come up with the tier list. And as a mid-tier main myself, I can tell you that consistently beating Meta Knights comes at such a higher level of mastery of the matchup as a DK to learn the matchup versus Meta Knight than it is vice versa. And the same thing with as it goes down the tier list, like your level of mastery of that matchup needs to be so much higher. Either that, or you have to be that much smarter of a player, or just outplay your opponent to such a level that it's ridiculous, really. So it's like it's crazy enough that I can even place decently well with DK, but to place consistently well and like in the money every time is not, it's not always gonna happen because of how advanced the game has come along. I mean, when we first started, I was inspired a lot by Bum, and Bum is a ridiculously smart player. He always has been, he always will be. And in the beginning, it was just that, just his general knowledge of spacing and just mind games in general that just let him utilize DK's range and just like beat a lot of people. But when people say like Inui first realized that the B button destroys DK, like literally once you get his shield down to a certain amount, if you just keep tornadoing, it's just like that's the whole matchup, man. Like you can't do anything about it. But I definitely agree that we were talking a little bit before about how that with along with top player status, like all the top players, they kind of over centralize the metagame toward one aspect. Like if you look at the top 5 players, I know we have a thread somewhere. It's probably opinionated, but it has like M2K, Ally, Nairo, Anti. They were all up there somewhere, and they all main Meta Knight now. So if you look at that, not to say that any of them aren't like ridiculously smart players or really good, but I mean, I don't know. What do you guys have to add on that?
If you guys don't mind, I'm just gonna interject here real quick, and I'll let whoever else wants to go. But Yeah, in my opinion, I mean, obviously this is gonna reek of bias because I mean Ganon, but I can assure anybody that's listening and you guys as well that this is just, I'm not really a person who, operates under, a bias. That's not really my MO, so I'm trying to, I've thought about this objectively, and I think that a lot of what sometimes kills the spirit of Brawl, so to speak, is that because lower tier characters are so discouraged and so condemned and like top players who I personally, I think I'm a pretty, a decently observant guy who has, at least enough experience with this game to tell when somebody's really good. Players who main lower tier characters, like say Kieran or whatever, whoever else mains a low tier, I can tell that they demonstrate such superior skill that they're no different from somebody like Anti. But the fact is that somebody like Anti simply just has, not saying necessarily that Meta Knight, carries those players, but these players are on, very close in skill level, but some players are actually ostracized from this top player status just because of the character they use. And I think that is, I think that is the greatest fallacy that kind of pervades the competitive Brawl philosophy, which, while it has, put us at the top of, the national tier list, so to speak, America, being better than Japan or Europe or whatever, it has put us at the top there, at least in my mind. But I think that, at this point, now that we've achieved that level, I think that the whole, unless you main Meta Knight and place top 3, you're not a top player, I think that's a very retrograde philosophy. And I think that right now, the meta game has been over-centralized to Meta Knight and the top, S and A tier, that I think it's time to start actually embracing a lot of the lower tiers and mid tiers and to kind of embrace diversity in the game rather than just this strict, kind of stick up your ass mindset about, okay, unless you main S or A tier, you're not worthy of playing this game. In fact, you should probably not come to this tournament. You should just, PayPal us your money. So so that's my opinion on it.
Clearly some anger.
There's some strong words there.
Clearly some anger.
We'll let Verm vent for a second.
Yeah, if you guys need to PayPal anyone money, now that you've heard that,
I mean, hey, after hearing that, I'm gonna go on and make another account just for this.
Send some money. Yeah.
I got bills to pay. Like help me.
How about DMG? Don't even play.
We're in the electronic age. We don't have to show up anymore to fill it.
Wi-Fi. Let's go.
Just Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
But yeah, I agree. I agree a lot with what Verm is saying. A lot of the mid tier and some of the low tier characters, they actually have really, really high potential to succeed and even move up into the higher tier placings, like Toon Link, Fox, Pit, Wolf. He has some rough matchups, but there's ways for him to get around it. Characters like Sonic, Donkey Kong, those characters have the potential to actually excel at a higher level, more so than some of the lower tier characters. But, with a lot of hard work, everything is possible. I mean, even a low tier could do very well at a national, given the right circumstances. But all it means is, when you play those type of characters, the ones that aren't as good on the tier list, you have to work a lot harder. You have to be a lot more technically sound on your execution. Everything you do has to be on point, because when you mess up, as opposed to a top tier messing up, it hurts you about 100 times more than it would hurting one of those characters. And that's the biggest thing, in my opinion, that discourages players to try out mid to low tier characters, because they don't want to go. Mario could be their favorite Nintendo character, but they wouldn't want to go the route of maining him because they know the time, maybe not so much the time and the effort, but they know the struggle that he will have to go through to be able to exceed at an exceptional level in high level play. And I think for the most part, America in general and all of the fighting games, all of the traditional fighters that I've ever seen, a lot of players have that same mentality. Why would I have to go through such and such when I can just pick a top tier character, I'll have an even level of play with, say, X amount of top tier players. But there's a lot of players who do actually defy, they defy those rules. They've won nationals with lower tier characters, like Adon, Super Street Fighter 4. That character, when the game came out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think still up until now, he's considered a very, very low tier character. But Gamer B, he's stuck with his character, regardless of the fact that the character almost every combo is a one frame link to do. Regardless of that fact, he's stuck with his character. He learned his matchups. His execution is phenomenal. And he's won many national tournaments, and he's even beaten the best players in Super Street Fighter 4, such as Justin Wong, Tokido, Daigo. He's beaten all of them and won national tournaments with Adon. So, I mean, it's definitely not impossible, but when you go the route of picking the mid to lower tier characters, you need to know exactly what you're getting yourself into and what to do to excel at high level of play, whether that is going through frame data, learning what you need to do to buffer punishes to punish these characters. All that stuff is it's very vital, and it'll help you a lot more fundamentally when you go into higher level play than it would to just free fall it, so to speak, and just go in.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, my favorite, well, not my favorite Nintendo character, but my favorite character to play in the game is moderately good. But I mean, I think really what makes you a top player, like in a general sense of the word, is that you're a national threat. Like, I mean, there have got to be some people who are like, damn, I don't want to play, Verm in tournament because I've never played a Ganon before, and they're scared of Ganon. I mean, to me, that makes Verm a top player. And there are a bunch of other players who fulfill these requirements too. I mean, people are scared of certain matchups and certain interesting characters, and I mean, so long as you've got tricks in your bag, which a lot of characters do, then I think that you can continue to hold your title of top player. And there's also like a different title that people tend to give others, which is like, oh, best player of this character. But I mean, what does that mean, really? I mean, it doesn't really mean anything.
I just wanted to actually point out in this sort of discussion here, and just almost to be a devil's advocate, really, but I mean, I completely agree that, having that sort of low tier, mid tier variety is actually really good. But when it comes to like playing a lower tier or mid tier character, for example, I mean, let's say you're the best Zelda main in the world ever, but you're even if you're the best Zelda, you're playing, you're placing consistently around like fifth or sixth. You're not really getting the money, and if you do, it's rarely. I mean, it's like the argument like, well, you're the tallest midget, but you're still a midget. Like, you're the best Zelda, but you're only a Zelda. Like, who cares? So, what do you guys feel about that? Like, is it worth being the best main of a character that's almost insignificant for most people?
The thing is, and this is true for like a lot of lower tier mains, like it is worth it to them because a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are just naturally drawn to the character. Like, you look at Poltergeist, for example, and like for him, like regardless of how he'll play, so if he does really good one day and really bad the next day, like it is worth it to him to play as Yoshi because that is his character. That is who he like feels drawn to. That's who he, understands and appreciates. And so, like, and I just feel like that's true for like a lot of lower tier characters. As far as lower tier characters and mains not getting recognition for like being a top player, it is true, but at the same time, you have to realize that being a really good or a top player is about making really good decisions. And that's for everything. That's for, in gameplay, making good choices, outside of the game, getting sleep, getting rest, eating right, everything like that. And then, picking your character. That's a decision you have to make. And while you can be a top player with a worse character, you're giving yourself a handicap by doing that. And so it's kind of like, I can name probably at least 10 Meta Knights that everybody would consider a top player, right? But then you talk about Yoshi players or Peach players or, so something like that. And it's like, you could maybe name 2 or 1 or maybe none you could think of are top players. And it's because, it's just, yes, the player's really good, but, it's because he's handicapping himself. It's, maybe he's just a little bit short of that level. Like if he, there's people I see that play just really bad characters, but they do so well. But then you realize if they played somebody else that was better, how much better could they do? Like look at SB. He plays Sonic of all people, and he's done really well. He did really well at MLG and shit like that. And but how much better could he do if he played Meta Knight? He's so far down compared to some of the better characters, and he's doing this good. And it's like, why are you? Yes, you like Sonic or whatever, but why are you doing this to yourself? Like, you should be smarter about this and just say, fuck it. All right, I'm gonna play Snake, Meta Knight, Marth, Diddy, Wario, Falco, Ice Climber, something like that. Like, so I just feel like for some characters and for some people, it's even if they do really good, it's just you might have to think about just sucking it up and playing somebody better if you want to get recognition as the top player.
All right, so I know you guys are talking about top players and mid-tier characters and low-tier characters, but if you're the best with like Link, does that automatically make you a top player? Like,
being the best with a character doesn't make you a top player.
Yeah, what I think we're talking about is
what you do in tournament that makes you the top player.
Right. So it's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. I'm done.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, what we're talking about, DFAT, is whether or not if somebody is like the best, the best of a certain character, if that automatically entitles them to top player status, or if they, so like say I don't know much about who the best Jigglypuff main is, but I've never heard of them before in my life, and I don't know if they have any notable tournament results. But since there's only like, maybe one, if not more, like a half a Jigglypuff main in the world, then, they're going to be the top. But that, because of, the lack of density in the Jigglypuff population, they're not going to have much competition. Whereas we're trying to pinpoint what exactly makes somebody a top tier player. Is, can somebody like Ganon, Peach, DK, Yoshi, Ness, Lucas, Samus, whatever, can those players be top players, or, does their character deprive them of the necessary, aspects of the game to be a top player, or does the status of a top player, which is given via tournament results, supersede the notion of the actuality of being a top player? And I know I worded that really strangely, but basically, is it about image or is it about actuality? Because obviously if somebody hasn't proven that they're a top player via getting top 3, it doesn't subtract from the fact that maybe say like somebody is a top player, such as the best Zelda in the world, which in my opinion is Riot, or Ed from Florida. They don't place top 3, but in my opinion they could be top players. So it's tough. It's, because in my personal opinion, it is about, like Kadaj said, it's about people who make the best decisions. People who make the best decisions, people who just can work the game, rather than people who place high. If somebody, mains a shit character, but they just make incredible decisions and they're just held back, I don't think that subtracts from their, from the actuality that, or the reality that they're a top player. I think that subtracts from the fact that they make money, not that they're, that they've demonstrated incredible technique and, superior skill, comparable to that of somebody who does place top 3 with a much better character.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting point you make right at the end there about money. I mean, to sort of go hand in hand with that, even if you aren't, I mean, let's say, I go to a tournament, I'm really amazing, and I'm going there like, I'm going to use Meta Knight, and I place in the money, does that make me any better than someone who, goes, I mean, let's say, like, Will, for example. Let's say, God forbid, Will placed below me, and Will is obviously better at the game than me because he can play DK at such a mastery level, and I can play Meta Knight, but I place in the money. Like, who is the better player there? Because even if he's using a better, even if he's playing better than me, he still did worse. And you know what? Honestly, by the way, just in like retrospect though, if I ever placed over Will with any character, like I would let everybody know immediately because that's like a dream of mine. But anyway, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, like, and I get what people are saying, where we shouldn't ignore how people do with worse off characters if you're not Meta Knight or Snake or Wario, and just because you didn't place in the money or you placed like a little bit outside of that doesn't mean that you're a bad player. But at the same time, when you're looking at the context of what makes a top player, and Verm was saying, for like best Zelda or whatever, he's like, I see him play, and I know his character is holding him back, and I see the potential in him, but that's the key word. You see the potential. Like right now, like right then, what he's doing, he's playing Zelda, where yes, he does have a lot of skill, and he is probably a really good player, but at least for certain characters, it just feels like you can't be a top player by playing those characters. You can be a top player not playing those characters. If you take away the character part, you're a top player, but then you play them and you really can't. I mean, some characters will just naturally hold you down really far. I mean, everybody that's under mid tier obviously will, no doubt. I mean, even if you plays really well, it's the margin of you being able to play such a better character or potentially do so much better is there to where it kind of limits you, kind of limits your ability to be at the status of top player.
Yeah, and I definitely see what you're saying there, and that's one of the sides of the argument I can definitely understand is that, like I said before, does playing somebody like, a really low tier like Ganon or Zelda or Link deprive somebody of the necessary experience that playing somebody like Meta Knight would provide? So that's, therein comes the issue of determining, whether or not the person is such, an excellent player that they can overcome those obstacles to such an extent that they do experience that, the full extent of the gameplay, and they do have an intimate knowledge of the game, so much so that, some, profess is only possible through the usage of Meta Knight, Snake, or, another top tier. So that's the primary problem. And, as I said before, I'll constantly reiterate this till the day I fucking die. I think that anybody who demonstrates skill at that level, regardless of their placing, if they demonstrate the skill, I think that they should be acknowledged and encouraged to keep using that character. And I also want to acknowledge, again, since I'm, as far as I know, the only low tier main here, this is going to sound like, a flagrant, nauseating bias, and anybody who thinks that can, take one in the butt. But, it's something that has bothered me since, the birth of the game. The general philosophy of Brawl is that, it just seems like, everybody's always complaining about the over-centralization of the game, but then they condemn, subsequently they condemn characters that aren't viable, and I think that is what precludes a lot of metagame advancement, because people get so discouraged, they get tired of the bullies, and I'm gonna go Meta Knight, or something like that. Of course, no offense to people who do decide to go Meta Knight, that was just me being stupid. But
I mean, I'm thinking about picking up Meta Knight, you need.
Yo, I've already picked up Meta Knight.
Just calm down, just I'm not whining about it. I'm trying to be a man about it and pick up Meta Knight. So you hold up.
Yo, I'm being forced to pick up Meta Knight. Like, I'm trying to go to tournaments and stuff, and every time I talk to Cheese, he's like, "Yo, pick Meta Knight." I'm like, "Yo, but my Sheik's really good," and it's not. Yeah, but use Meta Knight. Yeah, but I can understand from a new player's point of view, because at this point I'm still a newer player, that it's very tantalizing to want to pick up someone like Meta Knight, because he says, oh, you can pick up Meta Knight, and then once you learn to learn how to use them, you can go to another character. But honestly, if I'm winning money with Meta Knight, why the fuck would I use Peach? Really? Like that's just that's just my opinion. Like as much as I would love to go and just use Peach and be the best fucking Peach ever, if I'm winning money with Meta Knight, yo, like Peach isn't even in Brawl anymore for me, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and like it's just I think that it's like obviously there's nothing wrong if you want to go Meta Knight, if you're in it for the money. Obviously that's not something I personally admire, but it's not something I condemn either, because if you want money, whatever. If you pick up Meta Knight, that's whatever, it's your choice. And what I'm saying is the problem is just the pressure to pick Meta Knight up, and by that pressure, that's gonna it's this almost Ouroboros cycle. It's like people are saying, okay, there's too much Meta Knight, there's too many things wrong with Brawl. Then they say, they enforce that by continually saying that, Meta Knight's the only way to succeed because of Meta Knight. And that just, goes into this whole, spiel of this infinite recursion of Meta Knight, where it's just nothing but Meta Knight because everything else is discouraged. So my main point is just that, don't deify, low tier players and say, oh man, this player, this motherfucker uses Zelda. They deserve all the praise and money in the world. Rather that it's not so much that they should be praised and, verbally filleted. They should just be at least recognized, and not condemned just for their character usage, because that really is what kills a game, is just over-centralization.
Yeah, and that is true. I mean, there are a lot of lower tier players that, because of like a stigma you're talking about, they'll never get the recognition that they deserve. Somebody like Poltergust, regardless of how
you
good
lost to
he
Yoshi.
Is, oh,
Yeah.
are you? I'm sorry. I thought you player. Oh, let's talk about DMG's losses to Yoshi in tournament. Oh, okay.
Yo, you guys all see this chat, like as he's talking, we're like,
I'm
yo,
in the
DMG
wrong
lost to
call
Yoshi.
right now. I need to go. Like,
Yo,
all right, yes, I lost to Yoshi. Just, I don't even care.
Yoshi tongued you. You don't even know.
I think it should be more, like people go, oh man, you lost to Yoshi. Like I know a lot of people are just, yanking people's chains and shit when they say that, but it's like some people actually mean it. It's like, you lost to Yoshi, and it's like, fuck you. It's like you lost to the.
Oh.
You lose to. It's like look at it losing to the player. It's like if I lost to Poltergust, I wouldn't say I lost to Yoshi. I mean, granted, that's like one of Ganon's worst matchups, but I don't give a fuck. It's like I'm gonna say, okay, I lost to Poltergust. I lost to whoever.
Using Yoshi.
The character, if you lose to a bad character, don't go, oh, I lost to Ganon, I lost to Yoshi. Clearly the person is a superior player, and just say you lost to the player. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, that's real talk right there. That's actually, if you guys remember anything from this conversation, is that you lost to the player. You got outplayed by Will, not Green Donkey Kong. And unless you're a Meta Knight main, you lost to Meta Knight.
I mean, unless you're Rich Brown.
Unless you're Rich Brown. 185 ledge grabs.
He lost to the salty DK. He lost to DK.
He lost to that white DK. Well, you should have gone white. That salt color.
He lost to the DK that was going to work. Like.
Yeah, props to Rich Brown. We love you. But anyway, we're gonna end with that.
I'm pretty sure Rich, I don't know, man. We got this super East Coast versus West Coast rivalry going on right now.
Love you,
he can't
Rich.
wait to play me again.
We love you, even though DK timed you out. 100. How do you get? I don't even want to go into it. Anyway.
Hey, you drop down and then you up B.
Oh, B.
There's like a 1 second window after you grab the ledge.
Yeah.
You have to wait.
What Rich knows now is that there are definitely ways to beat it. He was just he was camping the purples, which was great if I got on stage, but he needed the other colors to get me off the edge.
He was picking a garden over there.
Oh,
he was pulling out the weeds. He was pruning his bushes and stuff. Like he was taking his sweet time.
He had a lot of time because Will was going for that timeout. And then he was like, yo, I got this. And he jumped off the ledge and died 3 times. Either way. We're going to end with that. So, what?
Didn't ADHD do that in the set too? Game 1 on Battlefield, he ran off stage twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't know how to deal with it. And when I got the quick kill, he just tried to camp me with peanuts. And I took a few, but I wasn't dying from it. So he just tried Diddy can't challenge that off stage like
got
that.
nothing on his uncle. Are they uncle? Uncle, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but anyway, for the third time, we're going to end it with it there. But as I said, if you guys remember anything from this conversation, it's that you lost to the player, not the character. And somewhere in there, I think we described what the top player is, but I don't even remember.
Poltergeist, I will have my revenge on you.
You lost to Yoshi. You can't even get revenge.
No,
Well,
I will get my revenge. I will
That's
beat
it.
him
That's
with
it.
Ganondorf.
That's it.
No, real talk.
No,
Verm,
Ganondorf-
teach me.
Ganondorf did. If I ever see Ganondorf Dittos in bracket,
I heard it wasn't even close against the Yoshi.
not even close.
You weren't even there. Get out of here.
I'm so mad. Oh my god.
Malcolm with the inside bird's eye view.
Malcolm, you were on another coast when that set was being played. Don't even say shit. John number 1. Okay, you follow me, people? All right. My controller, day 1, was stolen by somebody at the tournament. Okay. Which means that the whole tournament, I had to keep borrowing different people's controllers. I went through DFATs, Animus. At one point, I borrowed Allies. Like, I just went through everybody's controller. All right. So, John number 2. I'm playing with Animus controller, which lost the rubber to it in an unrelated accident. I'm not going to get into that. And it broke on me mid-match. I couldn't, I could shield, but I couldn't jump out of shield.
So you're blaming Animus right now, is that
I am not.
So you're saying that you lost to a Yoshi because of Animus, is that what you're saying?
Wow, the past blame like that.
Yoshi because of
That's really mean, to be honest. Because pretty much what you're saying is that you're blaming Animus and an unfortunate soul who had to pay his son through community college by stealing that controller, which he could smuggle drugs with. You don't even know that person's life. And you're saying that's why you lost to Yoshi?
I'm blaming that smuggler. All right, I am.
All right, no robbery, Johns. All right.
It's his fault.
Who the fuck steals the controller? Yo, Poltergeist went to the rave. That's why he won.
Oh man.
That's why he had that.
You know what?
Jack.
I mean, if that was why, he got me. I can't even say anything.
The
right
rave
there.
Johns now, or John number 3, he went to the rave. Maybe were you at the rave? You were at the rave?
No, that's why.
There you go.
Me.
That's what.
Those were the stakes actually. Like winner gets to go to the rave.
Oh, all right, I see. So MG got excluded because
it was a rave money match, and I lost.
No, the sign says people who have beaten Yoshi, all who can enter. And DMG
There's people that didn't even play Brawl that got in there. I'm a little upset right now.
Yeah.
To my ledge, and I pulled the coolest shit I think I've ever done. Like he just came over to me like such an arrogant bitch, and I was just like, "Fuck you!" And I ledge dropped down aired him, and I clicked up.
So
I placed in the money. I won like $8.
Oh, that's
I made like $8. That's how much Gandorf makes in the money.
Yo,
$8.
I'm legit.
I didn't even make it with
$8.
I got 2 less than a whopping 10.
Yo, alright, the best thing about playing 75M is when you're playing DDD and you throw out like the Waddle Dees and Dees whatever, and they just go off. Like they just start jumping around everywhere. And they're throwing shit out like electrical sparks. I'm freaking like what are the third ones? Gordos.
Yo guys, real talk. I played.
Gordos don't even matter.
I played Poltergeist DDD in a friendly DDD versus DK on Delfino, and like he got me to some stupid high percent. I was at like 200, and his Waddle D, like seriously, like it jumps at me on that one transformation where there's the 2 walk-offs and the stairs that go down to the little ditch. Like I'm walking at him, and the thing jumps at me, and it like drop kicks me off the top of the screen from the ground. I was like, what the hell?
Those wrestling moves. Those things are like they go after you. Like they're like just they do the walking that we talked about. They walk around outside your zone, and all of a sudden they go for that body slam, and they fuck you up. They fuck you up. Like real talk, they fuck you up. All right, we're gonna.
Oh, by the way, sorry, Rav. I just want to say this. Shout outs to Illmatic. Sorry that I had to stop playing with you in our friendlies, man. But I hope this episode was worth it.
Yo, Illmatic is legit.
Mentioning of Illmatic, this is gonna make his day. Just
Yo,
that.
best
Illmatic
placing
getting
Peach,
that Ganon
13th,
practice.
13th at Wobo.
All right. Well,
I'll
here's the
give
thing. I was gonna give everybody time for shoutouts. So.
We all just gave Illmatic a shout out.
Oh, we all gave it.
Yeah, I think I'm done with Illmatic. Like.
I'll give my shout out to Poltergeist.
Yeah. I'm gonna shout out.
Obviously, just because I'm here, this is why you gotta.
I'm gonna shout out to this newer player. He's actually he's good, but he needs to build up his strength, his inner power. He goes by the name of DMG, and he's been losing to Yoshi's lately, and I feel like it's one of his harder matchups. And he's come a long way, but I feel like he still needs a lot more experience to truly be good at this game. I don't know if he can do it, but I'm rooting for him. I'm pulling for him. I'm definitely pulling for him.
Yo.
Shout out to that guy.
I don't even got it at this point. I'm just washed up at this point.
You little tiger.
You should have no hope in me. Yeah, little tiger. Like I'm not even a little tiger. I'm like dead tiger. Like I'm not even a threat anymore. Like don't
no
even
threats.
Don't even like falsify your hope to me. Like just.
Hey, I'm rooting for you, man. I know you're a newer player.
I'm definitely a new player.
I brought you up.
I'm like 2 weeks
Ashes.
old.
2 weeks old. 2 weeks old.
I don't know these matches.
And you've only been playing for 2 weeks. You've already lost to Poltergust like 10 times.
Yo, that is like.
Damn.
What can I say? That man has my number. And he calls me a lot, and it's kind of
crazy. They don't call him the blood god for nothing.
Middle of the night calls me. But anyway, we're gonna wrap this show up. Fuck transitions, man. Transitions are for cool, not cool people actually. So, anyway, so to go into the end of this episode here, you guys know how to follow us. We got Always Brawl, Smashboards. You can follow me on Twitter at Rapture, Facebook, which is our Directional Influence group, and I don't know. You can follow us other ways too, probably.
So shameless.
Yeah, really, fuck it. Anyway, I want to give shout outs to everybody who was on the show tonight. Myself, big shout out to myself. I'm really awesome. Will, Kadaj, DMG, Malcolm, PD, Verm, and DFAT. Really awesome having you guys on the show. Thanks for joining us. And shout outs to, I don't know.
Yo, I got
Mewtwo King.
Shout out to Mewtwo.
Where are you, Mewtwo King? Like, come up and beat allies sometime. We're tired of this.
Shout out to Adamus. Where the fuck did Adamus go? Real talk.
He should be home tonight, actually.
Adamus is hiding in a cave in Missouri.
Adamus, get back and get,
He's sustaining himself off of like the outside swamp water. Like he will make a long journey back home, and eventually he'll be back.
Also, this is a shout out to you, the listener. That's right, I'm making you feel good. Whoever you are out there, you're awesome, and you know it. Anyway, we're going to end the show tonight. Thanks for listening to episode 26 of Directional Influence. I'm Rapture, and all my guests here say goodnight to you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week on Directional Influence.